It's Thursday, December 17, and this is your Barbados Today Evening News Update, so glad you could join us. A leading player in the credit union movement says the current financial environment is limiting credit unions, and he's calling for a level playing field in the financial services sector. That's the concern of President of the City of Bridgetown Credit Union, Adelaide Stevenson, as he addressed the official opening of the credit union's new branch in 6 Road St. Philip last evening. According to Stevenson, these limitations are preventing credit unions from expanding their services.
In seeking to respond to our members, we are hamstrung to some degree by some challenges which we alone cannot resolve. These challenges relate to existing limitations on credit union operations. These limitations are frustrating. They're hindering us from fully capitalizing on market opportunities in support of future growth and business sustainability. We're addressing these issues in concert with other credit unions and at the level of our regulators. We're hoping for a speedy resolution sooner rather than later. If the credit union movement is to move to the next level of development in pursuit of attaining its true potential and at the same time contribute more to national development, there must be a level playing field. It requires meaningful liberalization of the financial services market. This, no doubt, would ultimately redound to the benefit of all of us members.
Minister in the Ministry of Finance, Ryan Strawn, assured that legislation is coming that will help credit unions to expand and operate more efficiently.
I will be laying in Parliament the National Payment Systems Bill, which will lay the legislative framework upon which the digitization of payments across the country will take place. The work to implement the automated clearinghouse is well underway, and as I said, by November of next year, all of the 8 of the major financial institutions, which include City of Bridgetown, will be a part of that. I am happy to hear that you're liaising with the smaller credit unions to facilitate them coming on board. And you have my assurance that the government's policy is to ensure that we can do as much corporate business within the context of the credit union sector, simply because of the strong retreat that exists not only on the other side of the financial sphere, but certainly it is important that your members, with whom you've had a relation for 30 years, 25 years, that if they want to establish a business, that it is natural for them to come home to you. And therefore, we are going to be laying out under a new Deposit Insurance Act, which we will work to resolve, how we will create a framework that allows for credit unions to be brought in to the deposit insurance framework in order to ensure that we have parity with respect to the treatment of financial institutions across this country.
The U.S. Embassy is urging Caribbean citizens and governments to be alert to the threats posed by telecom operators that are controlled by malicious agenda. It comes on the heels of this week's report in The Guardian, quoting mobile network security expert Gary Miller, who suggested that cable and wireless communications flow in Barbados and the Bahamas Telecommunications Company allowed China to use its networks to target, track, and intercept phone communications of U.S. phone subscribers. The U.S. authorities say customers and governments in the Caribbean need to be able to trust that equipment and software companies will not threaten national security, privacy, intellectual property, or human rights. They stress that trust cannot exist where telecom vendors are subject to authoritarian governments that lack an independent judiciary or rule of law that would effectively prohibit this misuse of data. The officials called on the Caribbean to join the Clean Network, which is a growing alliance of democracies and companies coming together to safeguard national security, intellectual property, and personal data from aggressive intrusions by malign actors. An animal sanctuary operator says an increasing number of cats and dogs are being dumped across the island. Karen Whitaker, founder and managing director of the Ocean Acres Animal Sanctuary, formerly Hope, told Barbados Today several people are finding it more difficult to provide and care for their pets, and it's worrying.
All the time. I get between 10 and 20 calls a day on my phone from people who either have to move house because they can't afford to live where they do, so they need to get rid of their dogs, or else they can't afford to feed their dogs and cats. It's bad. People are finding dogs all the time because if people can't find a home for their dogs, they tend to just dump them. We got a call couple of weeks ago when we were at the event that we had at Hunt's, and somebody just called me on my phone and said, if you don't come for my dogs today, we're going to take them somewhere and dump them. It's hard. It's really hard. There's so many out there. People pick up on the dogs, I know, because they sort of tend to see them more.
Right.
But a lot of people over years, have been feeding colonies of cats and like their cats and feed them and care for them. They can't afford to do that anymore. These cats are starving.
She's pleading with Barbadians to be more proactive and take responsibility for spaying and neutering their animals.
Please spay and neuter your pets, because fundamentally that stops there being more. Please don't think that it's not natural or it isn't healthy. It is. And we don't want more and more of these. So please, that will control it, because what happens is people start off with 2 dogs and it's fine, and then, before they know where they are, they've got 6. And previously they were managing, now they're not. So absolutely now more than ever, spay and neuter your dogs. And if you are stuck, if you are struggling, reach out to your vet, first of all. If you don't know who we are or you don't know another shelter, reach out to your vet, they'll direct you. Your vet might be able to help you.
The Barbados Museum and Historical Society has officially launched its 2020 journal. Chairman of the publishing committee, Dr. Henderson Carter, said the yearly journal is the best source for all things historic and significant to Barbadian life.
This is one of the places that you can go to if you want Barbadiana, if you want Barbadian history, Barbadian culture, Barbadian ecology. This is the place you go to, because over the years we have had several good articles on Barbadian culture, so that researchers who are interested in Barbadian history, this is the place to go. But it's also a place for our Cape students, our CSET students, yes, our CSET students as well, our university students who are doing Caribbean studies and Caribbean history. This is a place for research.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
To the region now, in Trinidad and Tobago, health authorities warn of a worrying trend in the lead up to Christmas. They say that more families are testing positive for the coronavirus.
Entire families are coming down with COVID-19, with a marked uptick in family transmissions during the latter half of November.
The total number of cases within clusters which were linked to other persons within the same home, within that same address, was 26 out of the 92 persons, being about 28% during the period 1st to the 14th of November. However, this number increased to 40% during the period 15th to the 28th of November.
A new cluster trend is also being recorded in one geographic area.
When we look at the period 15th to the 28th of November, we see that there were 25 cases in a single cluster. Now, this region was generally that Sawa to St. Joseph area. And it shows that there's something that is taking place in that area which needs some attention.
MP for St. Joseph, Terence D'Alsing, recently acknowledged that so-called Zessa parties are being held in his community on a regular basis on private property. Residents of North Valsayn confirmed to TV6 that the parties continue unabated into the wee hours of the morning every weekend without fail.
What we are seeing now in some of the culture is that our age group 16 to 29, and look at where 30 to 44 is, actually leading in the age distribution.
With Christmas right around the corner, The Ministry of Health is once again advising persons to resist the urge to visit extended family and friends this Christmas season.
Further afield in France, President Emmanuel Macron has tested positive for the coronavirus and will self-isolate for 7 days. The president's office said the diagnosis was established following a PCR test carried out as soon as the first symptoms appeared. Euronews has the story.
The Elysée has been forced to completely reorganise the president's schedule. He had been planned to make a trip to Lebanon. That's had to be cancelled. Cabinet meetings and most of the normal routine meetings that the head of state would have been holding will all be done remotely. But some of his aides are inside the Elysée Palace behind me, although we're told by Mr. Macron's aides that they're in a separate room from the president and they're only communicating with him remotely. But nevertheless, the president's aides are insisting that he's perfectly capable of continuing to work and that government business will continue almost as usual.
That's news, but for the very latest, visit our website at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook, and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media and bus terminals, as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. You can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM and Capital Media HD 99.3 FM.